Satnam, yogis and yoginis. Hello and welcome back to one more part in this mantra course. And we are going to have a very interesting part today when we are going to start mapping the different points in the upper palate and the different sounds from Sanskrit and Gurumukhi. I will just remind what we saw the last time. In the last video, we were seeing this original diagram by Yogi Bhajan, describing the tongue, stimulating the points next to the teeth in the upper palate, and every pair of points in the upper palate, it's affecting the hypothalamus. I did some drawings to make this more clear. You could see how the tongue touching 2 points is going to stimulate the hypothalamus in some way. A zoom in of that region, of this region here, right, would be these 2 points stimulating in the hypothalamus, activating the pituitary and the pineal in some way. The hypothalamus is in charge of many bodily processes, many autonomous functions, but it's also, because it's also talking to the pituitary, and this one is, we call it the master gland, right, regulating all the other glands, and the glands are producing hormones, which are very much linked to emotions. Then hypothalamus is also going to be in charge of emotional response. And that affects our behavior, right? So a lot of our behavior is going to be linked to this. And I'm sure, and that's what we basically know from a scientific point of view, but there is also a deeper connection, which we probably don't know yet. There's so much to learn about the brain, right? And what we know is what we were saying, no? A German speaking German, a Spanish speaking Spanish, there is a certain characteristics in our personality that are linked to our language. And this is part of the consequence of these points being here, yeah? It can be linked to many things. It could be linked to climate as well, for example, yeah? Because of where we live, the Spanish and the Germans, we live in a different climate that's also affecting us. But how do we know that that climate is affecting our behavior, and that behavior is going to affect how we pronounce words? I mean, it could be like that as well, yeah? What is the cause and what is the effect? Because, for example, in Spanish, we have the north of Spain and the south of Spain, and particularly in the south, like Andalusia, they have a very different personality pattern. Like, the personality is quite different from the north. I've lived in Catalonia many years, and I've traveled to like Sevilla, Jerez to teach, and it's always impressive, the lightness with which they take life. It's much more light and much more like fun-oriented, and that's excellent to be able to find joy in the day-to-day. And I'm not saying that Catalan people don't find it joy, but it's more solemn, yeah. And when we are making jokes in Catalan, it's often more like it's different. It's a different quality. You would have to be there in Barcelona and Sevilla and notice the difference in the personality. There's no doubt there is a difference. And there is a difference in the way they pronounce sounds. So, for example, in Sevilla, they will just skip the D sound when it's at the end of the word, when it finishes like ado. So it would be like ao. Instead of cansado, it would be estoy cansado, right? Estoy cansado, estoy cansado, right? So the D, that's just skipped. And what effect is that going to have on us, skipping a letter? Well, that's very interesting that we can observe how differences in language is difference in behavior. And so, as I said, maybe also linked to climate and many other factors, yeah? But let's do a little a psychological experiment, because sounds have an effect on us, and we can associate certain personality traits to sounds. And we can do this little experiment to just show very basic how this happens. So imagine that I am a crazy scientist, and I am not so far from the truth, and I did create a new form of life. I'm sort of Dr. Frankenstein, yeah? But I created a new form of life. And here they are. It's these 2 lovely beings here. And I already decided what am I going to name them. But I don't know which one is going to have which name. So one is going to be called Bluba, and the other one is going to be called Kritki. Bluba and kritki. So who do you think is bluba and who do you think is kritki? So I'll let you for a moment to think. Right. So when we do this, I do this experiment with people and I ask, most of the people would say that this is bluba and this is kritki. Now some people try to be rebels and to go against the norm. They say, no, this is bluba, this is kritki. Yeah? But in general, if we just go by our own first instinctive impulse, then this is bluba and this is kritki. And well, bluba, the sound b, yeah? It's a B sound. It's very feminine. It's linked to something feminine. We will see why later. Yeah, in a moment we will understand why this is connected to more feminine sound. And kr, the R and the T, kretk. Yeah, it's a more masculine sound. So these little edges like that, this is more phallic. Yeah, symbol, yeah, and it's more like edges. It's like the sound very edges, kind of like, yeah. And these soft undulations, like waves are linked to water, yeah, which is a feminine element. And the sound is like like a bubble, yeah. So that's more this kind of shape, yeah. So r and b, they have these shapes, and r being more masculine and b being more feminine, like the waves. So not only do we find that there is shape associated to sound, but also we find there is even masculine and feminine or yin and yang associated to sounds. So some letters are going to be more masculine and some more feminine. Well, that's already quite revealing, isn't it? And we're talking about the polarity, yeah, yin and yang. So if you remember in the first part of this course when we were talking how out of vibration comes the shape and the form and the manifestation, the three-dimensional manifestation, here we see an example of how different sounds, different vibrations are going to have different external manifestations. And when we see these shapes, some part of us is called, whether it's softer and wavy or more edgy. Yeah. So this is interesting. I find that, like I say, this is interesting very often. This is probably my favorite line. It's probably my personal mantra. But that's the thing. This is why I'm sharing these teachings. Yeah, because I find them interesting. I hope you find them too. So let's go into these maps of sounds. We were seeing the upper palate and the 84 points, and we would like to see now which of the sounds are activating these points. And those sounds are going to be different for every language. Yeah, we could do a map for every language that exists. And just as an example, I'll show you a map I found in the internet. This is from the wiki. And this is for some difficult Arabic sounds. And here you will find a map of where in the mouth they are being produced. So we could use this to understand Arabic. That's not the purpose of this video because I don't understand Arabic, I'm sorry to say. But our purpose is to study Sanskrit and Gurumukhi because they have the same pattern. And for Sanskrit and Gurumukhi, we would have, there is this diagram in the internet as well, and all the merit to whoever created the drawing. It's a very beautiful drawing of this face with the upper palate and the different points, and it's called guttural sounds, palatals, cerebrals, dentals, and labials. Yeah, and this is all the consonants. Yeah, we can see from kakha gaghanga, cha-cha jajanya, tatha dadhana, tatha dadhana, pa-pa babama. All these consonants, which is what we are going to be working on now, they have these 5 different ways of pronouncing it. And here we see guttural, the tongue pretty much far in the stimulating the back side of the mouth. the velar ridge. We will see the velar area, a bit more about this. The palatal sounds, which are a bit more forward. Dental are even more forward, but in between there is this cerebral sound, which is done, the T with a dot. These are particular from Sanskrit and Gurmukhi, where the tongue goes up. And we don't have these sounds in Spanish, and this is a very characteristic position of the tongue, and that's what gives a very characteristic accent to the English, to the Indian speaking English. Like when they put their tongue there and they, would you like some water? Yeah, and they have this, would you like some water? Yeah, there is this tongue going up and back, and that's a reflection of how present the cerebral sounds are for them. So when they speak English, they have this pattern of putting their tongue to pronounce the T's, which is quite far back, and we can see this. All right, I can show something else. This is from a book, an outline of English phonetics from Dr. Jones, and he shows how there is different sounds for the very same letter. So we can see tongue position of cardinal dental T, which is very much touching the teeth in the front. This is a very Spanish T. And the tongue position of cardinal alveolar T, that's a bit more further back, and then a retracted variety of T even more further back. So I remember an anecdote that I studied English many years in school. I went to private teachers at home. I studied in university. I've done hours and hours and hours. And the first time I traveled to an English-speaking country, I went to Northern Ireland, Belfast, and I was living there for a number of months. And I remember the first week, I went to the shop. I wanted to get a cup of tea, and I said, "A tea, please." And she was looking at me like, "What? A tea? I want a tea." I'm like, "What?" "A tea, a cup of tea." and she couldn't understand me. And then at some point, something clicked. "Oh, tea. You want some tea? A tea. Would you like a tea?" "Yeah." "Yes, a tea. That's what I'm saying, a tea." I was putting the tongue so far forward that she couldn't understand me. And she thought it was like something else. I don't know what she was thinking I was asking for. But her tea, the tongue was further back and up. So that showed me how however much theory you may learn, and I knew all the different cases of verbs, all the different types of verbs, and how to do very complex, whatever grammatical aspects in English, and I couldn't order a simple cup of tea. So that was, can you imagine how frustrating it was? That's what made me want to really learn English and to be mixed with English-speaking people for a number of years to learn it better. Still, my accent is very Spanish, and I was reviewing the video from the last week, the hard-soft palate junction, and I thought I said hard soft palate junction, because the D is also very strong, right? So these are the characteristics of language which I'm talking about. And if we see again this diagram, so the Spanish will be more forward and the English can go farther back, but the Sanskrit have one that is even farther back. That's the cerebral sound I was talking about before, this cerebral sound, yeah? So with the tongue more back. Now that's going to happen with different letters. This is the same with the C and the K, which is the same sound, but the tongue can go very back, very much in the back, or it can be an advanced position for the K. So different pronunciation is going to be affecting us in different ways, but we should find the way Sanskrit and Gurmukhi do it is the way to affect most of the upper palate in the most complete way, yeah? Affecting in the most complete way. So we should find where these sounds and how do they touch. And this is, I did this by myself. I took the drawing of the 84 points and I explored pronouncing a number of mantras. Where does the tongue touch in those? Imagining it, feeling it, and drawing it. And this is what I came up with. I haven't seen anywhere this, so this could very much be wrong. Could well be wrong, but I think it's a good approximation. Yeah. So here we have the 84 points, and what we will have is that, for example, with the K sound, like I mentioned with this, it can be very much just like the tongue position of the cardinal K could be just the upper palate, just the velar area, but it could also be affecting some of the back points here, these ones here. And then this is not pink, yellow. This is more like there's an overlapping point. So some dental sounds can be overlapping into some of the palatal sounds. That could happen. But if we try that, so ka ka ga ga ka ka. By the way, when we pronounce these lines of the alphabet, the way the Sanskrit alphabet is pronounced is one sound, another sound, another sound, another sound, another sound. So ka ka ga ga nga. This is different from Gurmukhi. In Gurmukhi, they say ka 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 ga 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 ga. So they repeat the sound twice. So if anybody is learning Gurmukhi, they will notice that I don't say ka 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 ka, but I say ka ka ga ga nga, because I learned this pronunciation of the Sanskrit alphabet, not the Gurumukhi one. But anyway, these 5 sounds are velar sounds or guttural, yeah, pronounced in the back of the throat. And the next one's ch, ch, j, j, ñ. Ch, ch, j, ñ, ñ is like the Spanish mañana, yeah. Ch, ch, j, j, ñ. These ones are affecting these points here. Now, tat, her, dad, her, na are these points. And now I'm looking at this diagram, and maybe these points are too far back. Yeah, it could be. Maybe they should be more towards here, more forward. Yeah, because this is quite far back. But it's as I said, it's an approximation, and every upper palate is going to be different for every person. Yeah, I took some X-ray and I drew all the teeth like that to make sure that this is a real upper palate of someone, but it's an approximation because everyone's will be different. And again, the pronunciation of everybody is going to be different depending on which language do you speak. So this is just an approximation. Don't take it too literally. Tat, ha, da, da, na, the regular dental sounds, they are going to be forward. These are the cerebral I was talking about. These are the dentals. And finally, the labials are pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. And these are in the lips. Yeah, pronounced in the lips. So these ones do not touch these 64 points in the upper palate. Like the velar, pure velar sounds also do not touch the 84 points in the upper palate. And yet, we can see that the more farther in the back of the mouth we are, it's higher here. These are the higher sounds. And as we are coming down in the alphabet, the more forward we are going into the mouth. So, ka, cha, ta, ta, pa. So it's from the back towards the front, sorry. So the alphabet is specifically constructed in such a way that it determines where in our mouth we are producing these sounds. Okay. Now, where is this affecting us? What is the effect of these sounds in us? Well, for that, we should move on to the next part, which is going to be exploring the sounds in the different, linked to the different chakras. Yeah, we have a good reference, which is the chakras. Every chakra is drawn as a little flower, and every flower having some petals, and that could help us determine which of the sounds that we have are vibrating in which of the chakras, so to know what's happening in the body. All right, let's let's do that then. Now, if we look into the drawings of the chakras, we will find them like a lotus flower with a number of petals around and a symbol in the middle, which is the bija sound for that chakra, which we already talked about this in the other part of the course when we were talking about the semi-vowels. And then there is a number of petals around it with some other letters. So let's do this. Let's explore this. Which are the sounds that appear in the petals? Yeah, let's do this together. Sounds in the petals. And we're gonna start from the top bottom. Yeah. So the higher, well, the top chakra is the Sahasrara chakra that doesn't have a lot of that doesn't have the petals around. It has 1,000 petals. It's called 1,000, and it would be all the sounds. So here would be the vibration of all the sounds. We are not gonna look at each petal because it's 1,000. So it's like everything. It's like they say there is like 72 nadis and there is 1,000 petals, and then every nadi vibrating 1,000 petals is like 72,000 different nadis, right? Or vibrations, yeah? It's just different philosophical ways of saying it. But basically the Sahasrara chakra is connected to everything. And then there is all the other chakras. So we're gonna see from Ajna chakra down. When we look at Ajna chakra, it's gonna be drawn like this. Yeah. This is the drawing. And it has a little triangle inside. And inside it has the letter A. I did it very small. Okay, never mind. The two petals, these are Ha and Ksha. And these are specific sounds. Now, Ha, this is like, I was talking about how in the other video, aham, and ha is from a to ha, and in the origin of Ekonkar, I was talking about these different symbols like a and ha is like the omega, yeah, a is like the alpha, and it's interesting that here we have in this chakra, in Ajna chakra, we have a, which is the alpha, ha, which is the omega, and then ksha. Ksha, it's a particular sound. Let me see if I have. It is here. You will remember this from other videos. So I is the first sound, and then ha is the last sound in the alphabet, and sha is one of these three particular special sounds. Sha, tra, nya. Tra like mantra, yeah, and nya like jnana. Not jnana, maybe not, maybe I'm wrong here. But ksha is one of these special ones. So a is the middle, ha is one of the petals, and sha is the other petal. So a, ha, and sha. So it's significant that the Ajna chakra is just telling us this is everything, right? We are in the Sahasrara. Sahasrara is everything, and then we come down and there is this, okay, so within this everything there is a beginning and there is an end. There is a and there is a ha. Yeah, this is gonna be, is like in the manifestation of the cosmos from the everything, the one unmanifested becomes two, right? And these two become like yin and yang, and they separate into two, right? Like in sound, we will have the vowels and the consonants, right? It's like the feminine and the masculine, yeah? Like the blue band, the kritki, yeah? There is this separation. And then the fact that in the sixth chakra we have two petals is showing this, that there is this separation into two. And then out of these two come 4 and 8 and multiply like the cells in the body, and then everything else manifests. So manifestation is coming down until it reaches the the next stage, which is the fifth chakra, we cannot perceive it. Yeah, everything, we have to perceive it through our third eye, this intuitive perception, because everything that is beyond the five, it's more subtle. Now, when this unmanifest cosmos manifests through this separation, Shiva, Shakti, Yin, Yang, or we could say Purusha, Prakriti, yeah, when Purusha, the spirit, Prakriti manifests into matter, this is slowly comes less subtle and more physical. And when it becomes this three-dimensional material world that we perceive, that's when we see the five elements. That's when we come down to the fifth chakra. And we have five senses to perceive these five elements. So up until here, everything was subtle, and then everything from the fifth chakra down, that's the manifestation, and that's what we perceive. It's important that I make this distinction because we will see in a moment that this is relevant to the way the sounds are grouped within the chakras. So this chakra especially has the Ajna chakra has two sounds, and then from here on down we have some the Vishuddha. Okay, let me just write the names. So Ajna, Vishuddha. Vishuddha is going to be, I'm not going to draw, it's a bit complex, the drawings of the chakras. They have a number of elements, but basically I'm just going to do, we may do it in another video, maybe, I don't know. And then it has all these petals around it. There's many of them, yeah, there's actually 16 petals. 16 petals. And it's the color blue. I'm gonna put this Ajna with this kind of purple because this is the colors that I have. So I'm gonna use what I have. And now the Ha is the sound of the bija sound in the chakra. You will remember from this diagram, yeah? The Ham is in the fifth chakra. Oh, we haven't seen this one yet, sorry. I don't want to confuse. It was, it was just in the fifth chakra. We will go into that diagram in maybe next video. Yeah, we will see it more clearly. But yeah, so the fifth chakra, the bija sound is Ha, and the 16 petals are A, I, U, E, I, O, Au, Ah. So you guessed it. And there is also some special semivowels, L and L. Yeah, it's just some 4 special semivowels. Now, these are the vowels, yeah, the 12 vowels that we saw when we were seeing the first part of this course. We started with this, with the vowels in the upper part of the alphabet. Okay, let's go down. Anahata. I'm gonna put a pink color. And Anahata is kind of like a double triangle. And there's Ya in the middle, right? And this is the lotus with the... I don't want to be drawing every one of the petals, but in this case we have 12 petals. 12 petals. And these 12 petals are K, K, G, 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 Ch, Ch, J, J, Nya. T, T. let's carry on. We will analyze it later, yeah? Sometimes it's pink, sometimes it's green. Yeah, the fourth chakra we associated with the pink and the green colors. Okay, Manipura. Manipura. Manipura is just Ra, and it has 10 of these petals. 10 petals. And the sounds are da, da, na. These are the cerebral sounds. Then there's t, th, d, th, na. And then it has also pa, pa. These two, pa, pa. All right. Manipura is associated with the color yellow. Okay. Svadhisthana. Svadhisthana is like a Chandra, like a moon with Va. And it has the sounds. Oh, the color is orange. Like the rainbow, yeah? Associated with the sounds Ba, Ba, Ma, and Ya, Ra, La. It has only 6 petals. Chup. And finally, we come to Muladhara. And it has the sound La, with only 4 petals. This one I will draw because it's only 4. Like that. And if we look in every one of these petals, you will find the V, and you will find the Sh, Sh, Sa. Okay? All right. So, if you Google, oh, and this is red. If you take the effort to Google the drawings for every chakra, you will find, and you will look at the letters in every chakra, you will find all these letters. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that the Anahata chakra vibrates with all these sounds, and the Manipura vibrates with all these sounds? Or does it mean something else? Now I'm gonna mention one thing. If you remember, I said how the manifestation is subtle and then it becomes gross. And this gross aspect of the 5 elements is what we can perceive from the 5 senses. So all the manifestation starts from the level of the 5th chakra. And if we look at these letters, this is basically the Sanskrit alphabet. I'm sure you recognize, yeah? I, u, and going down, ka, ka, cha, cha, ta, 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 ta. So we can see ka, ka, cha, cha, ta, 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 ta. So it's all going down. It just shows how the lower we go, the lower we go in the alphabet, the lower we go in the vibrations, the lower we go into our body vibrating. So not only was the Sanskrit alphabet designed in such a way that is pronounced from the back of the throat towards the front in the lips, but also as we are going forward in the mouth, that is vibrating down inside our body. And we can map exactly what it vibrates, even though the chakras are... sorry, I didn't write the 4 here, I just realized. Even though the chakras reflected like this, it's not exactly on every one of these chakras, these sounds, for a reason. The chakras are drawn from less petals to higher as it becomes more complex. So La would be only 4 petals, then it's 6, 10, 12, 16, yeah? This would be like that. Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to be drawing a lot of petals here, so I just do a few like this. Now, it becomes, as you go higher, is more and more petals, which means that is more and more sounds within them. However, not every chakra contains all these sounds. For example, we know that all these vowels are special. They are not consonants. The tongue is not touching the upper palate, and these vibrate in the brain. This is the area of the brain. So I, U, U, even though these appear around the fifth chakra, this is where we begin to make sound. They are vibrating higher. And then as we come lower, these are special, yeah? These are, we would say, okay, let's just keep it like this. I don't want to confuse now, because we could see where does it vibrate in the upper palate. But these are special semi-vowels. Let's just forget about them for a while. Now, let's keep k, k, g, g, nga. Even though it appears in Anahata, these are velar sounds. If we look now at this drawing, yeah, those ones are velar, so they're gonna be like that. All right. Now, these sounds are palatals. Palatals? 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 I don't know. I'm saying palatals. Maybe I'm wrong, my pronunciation here. It's funny, I take so much care in the pronunciation for the Sanskrit, but then I don't know what some basic words in English. Okay. Then the next one is tar-tar-dar-dar-na. That's the green ones. That's the cerebrals. And we're going to put it here. And they start here, look. But this is what gives me the clue, because Anahata has these two lines of the alphabet and then half a line, and then it continues here. I think it's just done that way so that the whole alphabet fits within the letter, within the flower petals. But it would make no sense at all that all these sounds, which are vibrating in the same area as these sounds, these ones affect one chakra and these ones affect another chakra. It just doesn't make any sense. And actually, when we go to experience it, we find that this is not the case. So these are the cerebrals, and then we come into the dentals, the same without the dot, ta-ta-da-da-na, more Spanish kind of sounds. Then these are here. And then when we look at papha, then we are looking into the labial sounds. Papa, papa, ma, yeah, the lips. So we're going to do that orange. And let's just go for the last ones. Well, let's stop here. Let's stop here for a moment, because these are semi-vowels and these are sibilants, so they're a bit more special. Yeah, the semi-vowels would be, curiously, the ya would be vibrating in the heart. So this would be what is it? Here, pink. Ra would be vibrating. Is more. This is the thing. It becomes more confusing now. I don't want to confuse, but La would be the first chakra. I do it like this, it's easier. Va is second chakra. And Ra is third chakra. But this is the thing. What I was saying is that if we only associated the sounds in the petals to that chakra, how come the second chakra has the sounds from the bija sounds, ya, ra, la, and va? Well, va, it's already in the Muladhara actually. But ya, ra, and la are within the Swadhisthana, but actually corresponds to the bija sounds of ya, ra, and la, of the fourth, third, and one. So these semivowels are just different, and they work in different ways, and it's very curious the way they operate. But look at this. The chakra, the sexual chakra, the second chakra has ya, ra, ala, and va within it. So within the sexual energy, which is the kundalini, it vibrates with the bija sounds of the first four chakras. And because we are chanting, the fifth one is also stimulated. So that's very interesting that ya, ra, la, and va, they are all vibrating in the second chakra. Now, the sibilants, Shirshasa, we will just say they are red. And I'm looking at, if you're looking at this diagram, I said these are lips, but there is something even beyond the lips, which is the sibilants. It's already outside, no? And the tongue doesn't have to touch the upper palate, you can check. And the sound is outside the lips. So if you're looking at the rainbow, no? Blue, green, pink, green, orange, and red, yellow, orange, and red. And red would be going down. So this is yellow, this is orange, and the red would be out, out of the lips, the sibilants. So here we have all the sounds, and we see how every one of these chakras has all the sounds going down as they are going down in the body, but they correspond to different parts of the body according to where every line is pronounced. Okay, we're going to take this as a basis for the chanting every line and chanting. We will experience this in the next video. We're going to take this, we're going to put it together with this one, and we will map every sound, how it goes into the body, and we will chant it and explore how it vibrates. Because this video is already getting long, and I remember I was saying that I would do shorter videos. Just before I went into this, I was thinking, should I cut the video now? But then I said, okay, let's carry on, because this was very important. So we will stop here, and we will carry on chanting these sounds in the next video. Thank you very much. As usual, like the video, say hello, say thank you, say this is terrible, whatever you want to say in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe so you can receive the notifications for the future videos. Sat Nam, thank you.